If you're a B2B business, a B2B tech company, or a B2B marketer, you're in the right place. Coming to you from Studio 26, this is the Interesting B2B Marketers podcast, bringing you interesting contemporary takes, industry tips, guest interviews, and true stories from B2B marketers in the trenches. Now, here's your host, Steve Goldhaber.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Studio 26. I'm Steve. I am the host of podcast and excited today because I've got Vanessa with me. Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
All right, cool. We're going to jump into who you are. So in 60 seconds, give us your background.
I am a career content marketer. I've been living within the SaaS B2B space since I kicked things off, and I'm just loving, the adapting to the field and what's changing in the content marketing world.
All right. Awesome. This is the bread and butter of the podcast where we're combining tech and SaaS and good old content marketing. So you're in good hands here.
Perfect.
All right. We're going to jump into case studies. The first one is all about creating an owned community. So excited to hear more about this one. Take it away.
Yeah. So we wanted to take a different approach in terms of, how we housed our content and how we distributed it to our target audience. And I think, it's no surprise in that whatever platform it is you're hosting on, really they have, let's say, their best interests in mind. And rather than trying to continue to keep up with the changing algorithms of, hosting a community within one of these platforms, we thought, go it on our own. So it's full control. We can create a great experience and platform and community that our target audience is going to want to keep coming back to.
I like that. Ironically, this morning, I just got done writing a letter to my clients about some LinkedIn algorithm changes. So it's funny how you live in a world of an owned community where you don't have to worry about those things. So give us the context around like the business problem. So besides getting off, what we call rented social channels into owned social channels, what else was going on in the business that you said, yeah, this is a good decision to kind of create our own community?
Yeah. So one of our targeted buyers really needed a lot of education related content. So they are in a role where they're looking to up level. And of course, by one of the ways of up leveling, they can leverage some technology like ours. But that wasn't the main focus. It was all about really just educating them on how to be the experts in their role and get that strategic seat at the table. And for some of them, that meant really starting from scratch and starting from the basics. And we started to see a lot of incoming inbound keywords, to our site. It was related to how do I do this in my role? So we figured let's grab that low hanging fruit, create a space where they can come, that they can just learn. There's no promotions, no product plugs from our end, and serve up the content in a format that they're comfortable with.
Yeah. So how was it in getting people aligned internally to say, yeah, this is the right decision? Take us through that process.
Yes. So the biggest hurdle definitely was pitching the need for a microsite that was outside of our primary website. And I'm sure driving traffic to the company website, pretty important, pretty up there. So by saying, hey, we want to create this unique destination for them to go to before they're ready to engage directly with our brand and with our website was a bit of a sell. We had to definitely have some meetings and conversations around that, and what the benefits would be, of course, making sure that we're not cannibalizing each other's sites and, really creating it, a space where it's easy for them to just sashay on over to our corporate website once we're ready to start engaging with us directly.
And how long did that take? And this should be a new game show element of the podcast where listeners can guess the number of days it takes to make this decision. And it's going to be different for every company. But tell us how long that took.
For us, it took about a quarter.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of days. So hopefully no one was making numbers there. I wish I was that impressive, but took a bit of doing.
All right. So you get buy-in to do this. You have to figure out now the old tech story, which is, do we build it? Do we create it on our own? Like, tell us about how you actually built the community.
Yeah. So we were able to, leverage our in-house talent to set that up for us, working with our designers to make sure, again, the UI is, impeccable for the experience that we were looking to deliver, and was able to, really draw on our team at hand to collectively build that for us, which also helped us, maintain that control in terms of where we're going to point people back to our own properties, back to our, main brand website. So we definitely needed that visibility, make sure all the ETMs are in place and we've got all the right tracking to make sure that that's actually happening. So we benefited from keeping that internal.
Okay. So now this thing is built. Is it purely content? Is it other type of functional, content? What are you giving to that community? What are they there to do?
Yeah. So it's primarily content. We've got the site itself kind of broken up into we'll say the classic crawl, walk, run type framework.
Just
So then that also gives us some amazing insights into where our target audience is sitting. Are they just starting? Are they that middle ground? Or do they see themselves as more of that expert level? So we've got some additional insights for our personas there. And there's also, some mention of any related event. But again, steering clear of any of those pure promotional, hey, come join, this demo that we've got set up and just really focused on, here's just some educational content that you can consume at your leisure. And of course, a variety of content, infographics, ebooks, videos, the whole gamut.
So I'm sure at some point you had to make this decision around, in the world of communities, there are some that is just, hey, you're logged into our owned world and we know what you're consuming. The other is the let's have a party and let everyone talk to each other. We're just a host of that party. Where did you fall in that spectrum?
Definitely on the first one. So while, there is the ability for people to comment, we found that particularly for our target audience, they didn't want to, we'll say, air their dirty laundry in terms of what they were looking at, what they were consuming. So we didn't see as much of that interaction. So our target then was to just focus on providing them with the right content at the right time.
Yep. Okay. And then so let's fast forward. You've implemented this. You've got now the data to understand, you know, what traffic is being driven to the main site. How are you converting on that? Give us like the business performance. Look at how this actually did.
Yes. So we were able to attribute essentially I'm trying to think of the number off the top of my head. It was about a 30% increase of people coming from the own community page over to our website. And then in terms of overall traffic to the community page, we were tracking, around 5,000 every 2 weeks. So we saw a really, really great uptick. And now we're just starting to sort of dig into the metrics. This is a bit newer. So we're starting to dig into to see exactly how much revenue we were able to influence as part of the initiative.
Okay. Awesome. That's the magic part of any marketing initiative is the tying it back to the revenue. I have a tactical question now, and you kind of alluded to this before when you talked about the website being off platform from the brand, building that domain authority. Like, was it a newly purchased URL or had it been around? So I'm just trying to, the reason I asked the question is that's the biggest fear of like, hey, we got this great new URL, but like no one has ever heard of it. And I say no one, Google has never heard of it. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So we definitely went with net new URL. So we focused a lot on our promotion. So leveraging all of those channels to get the word out there, as well as enabling our sales team. So when they would engage with prospects, then they could arm them also with a link to that site. And then also we have a few advocates that are really championing for us. They're also contributing some content to that website. So they're able to say, hey, come check out what I wrote here. So they're able to leverage their personal brand on their end and amplify that. And then we, of course, benefit from all those that are looking to learn from their experience.
Yep. All right, cool. I like the case study. Makes sense. Let's go jump into case study number 2. And I actually like this case study because so often as marketers, there's an unwritten rule amongst case studies, which is we did this thing. It was amazing. It worked. It was so fantastic. Everyone loved the marketing team. And this is not that case study. This is a crash and burn case study as it relates to a brand campaign. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the raw, authentic version of this one. Take it away.
Yeah. So we were tasked with, of course, creating some more brand awareness. So this was, a company that had been a little bit off of the grid and they wanted to draw some attention, make that big splash. So we even worked collaboratively with an agency as well to help support us and achieve those goals. And didn't quite pan out the way we thought that it would.
All right. So give us some business context here. What was going on? You mentioned lack of awareness, but what was happening? Were they a mature company? Were they launching a new product?
So I would say not fully mature, but on their way there. And there was no new product launch, but we did have some new messaging that we wanted to get on into market that, internally we had done some research to develop that. Seemed that it would resonate with our target audience again to, get them coming back to us, get that brand recognition and that muscle memory. But oh, did we miss the mark on that? So unfortunately, there was, as we learned after the fact, doing some post analysis, that alignment internally in terms of how to talk to our targets, the roles that they were in, was not as aligned as we initially thought. So really, we started off on the wrong foot, unbeknownst to us, until
Yeah.
the point where we put it out in market.
Yeah. So the research that you had done was more about like internal research as opposed to actual customer facing.
Correct. Yes, it was very hard for us to get connected with customers, and
Yeah.
heat was on to get it out there, right? Get it done. So, yeah, that was definitely again another misstep on our end for not bringing in the voice of our customers.
Yeah. That's a theme that I've seen throughout my career. And usually, there's two or three teams internally that all have a shared vision in theory about the customer. What I always try to do is have it so that the customer breaks the tie. So whenever there's like hey, there's two different things that we're deciding, whether it's messaging or product naming, whatever it could be, we're like, hey, great, two different ideas. Let's have the customer break the tie. And that's a cultural thing. Like you need to just culturally be there at a company because sometimes sales doesn't want to have that conversation with the marketing folks, or they're just saying, trust me, I know. So is that something that this company kind of did actually embrace the failure and that they were like, this is the reason why it didn't work?
It was let's say, a tough conversation to have that and bring that forward. Luckily, it has resulted in, for, future campaigns that we've been working on and brand narratives that we're making sure to bake that in as a step. And, the marketing team is really driving that, championing that, making sure that step is happening. So have moved in a good direction since that instance, but very hard lesson
Yeah.
to learn, I'd say.
It is hard. I mean, because most marketers get the challenge of, I need to get this done. And as soon as a marketer raises their hand and says, you know what? What if we add some market research to this? Market research is perceived as like, how dare you slow this project down? Don't you bring up market research? That's a 3 to 6 week initiative, and you're asking me to spend more money. Or even, and I say 3 to 6 weeks. The other thing too is like, know that you can do market research in a day. Like you can say, hey, can I talk to 4 customers? Very informal. I just want to get on the phone with them. Or, hey, we've created a concept of something. Can I just let you react to it? I wish there was more research like that because I feel like most marketers are in that trap of traditional research, which is, and I'm not knocking it. It's just it takes a while and it takes money to do it right. But I think the companies that can really just say, hey, I've got 3 customers who really love us. They're great at giving feedback. Let me just do this down and dirty. That can at least give you that directional guidance. And the outcome of that could be, hey, all right, we're willing to gamble. These 3 customers said it appeared directionally correct. Or otherwise, it's like, hey, no one agreed of these 3 customers. Now we actually have to do some research because we don't know. All right. Anything else about the second case study that you want to share?
Well, I can share some of the areas where it fell down.
We're just gonna look. This is a traffic wreck. We're gonna examine the wreck from multiple angles. Go ahead.
Let's take a look. Let's say, hopefully, others will learn from this as we have. So, one of the challenges that we ran into was really creating also that global entity. And we leveraged let's say, like a brand sponsor, a brand representative identity that triggered not one, but 2 of our audiences. So again, was very telling in terms of the way that, that brand person spoke. So we thought it would be a great idea for them to have an accent did not resonate with two of our major audiences. So that was another element where I'd love to, hone back in on what you said, Steve, in terms of getting that customer feedback and understanding if we had, brought it to our customer base before we push it out into market, something that definitely could have been avoided and would have saved us from, trying to do a little bit more of by positive spin following it to get us back in, brand favor town, we'll say.
Brand favorite town. I like that. I want to go to brand favorite town. All right, cool. I appreciate your humility in sharing that case study. It was a good one. I love to talk about failures. I'm a big believer in doing like a project or campaign postmortems, and we sometimes skip the postmortems for all the things that go well, and we just focus on the bad. So this was another postmortem that was probably conducted. All right, case study number 3 now. We're going to go into the world of a website rebrand. So give us some context for kind of this company and what was going on.
Well, so with this company, it was a newer company, not a lot of recognition. Their very first website was stood up by, one of the founders' teenagers in their basement kind of approach, it's put it together with that shoestring and bubblegum. And we were, brought in brand new marketing team. And of course, website being one of those prime properties for marketing, we said, hey, let's start here. This is also going to help as a great foundation for us to get some initial insights and research on our target audience as well. So we took on the challenge of rebuilding and redesigning our entire website.
All right. So this was kind of like a phase 2 enhancement. Tell us about your approach. Like, again, I'm always fascinated with like you doing it in-house, you doing it outside? Are you doing it like hybrid? How did you kind of figure out how you guys were going to actually build it?
So this one was a hybrid approach. So because we were still, a smaller marketing team, we didn't have all the, cooks in the kitchen that we needed to make a great meal. So we had to pull on some external support for that. And this was one where we also worked very, very closely with the CEO directly. I've done a few website rebrands in my day. I mean, who hasn't? If you're working in marketing, it seems to be a common project that we all take on. And this was an instance where there was that direct line of sight from the executive team as well. So just a little sprinkle of added pressure in there.
But good for alignment. I love working with executives who they will make a decision pretty fast. That's the one thing that where that's good. But I agree with you that it's a little more high stakes when the CEO is personally involved. All right. So how did you lead this website? Meaning some are very hey, we've got this new brand thing. So the brand needs to be reflected in the new site. Others are completely user centric. What are they coming to the website for? We have to solve all these problems. Some are just product information depositories, right? So how did you figure out how you were going to redesign the site?
Yeah. So for this one, we took completely user focused approach to it. Luckily we had a CEO who was very open to, our recommendations in terms of how we move forward. And as excited as we were internally for the new branding, at the end of the day, doesn't have a huge impact on our users and people visiting the website. They're just coming to the website to do the things that they need to do. And so we wanted to really focus on that, make the user experience super seamless. And we were able to, build out a journey that we could then test, see where people drop off, see how far they get, and tweak and refine accordingly. We also were able to leverage a ton of, heat maps and metrics like that. Hotjar is a tool that we use very often. And so that gave us a lot of really great insights in terms of, again, where are people clicking? Are they clicking on things that really aren't clickable? And should we make them clickable? What are they trying to do here? So it was really, almost like that, Dances with Wolves. We were in there, we were feeling it. We were, really walking a mile in their shoes to understand exactly how they needed to traverse our website. And that really, truly paid off at the end of the day.
Yep. So let's talk tech platform for a little bit. When was that decision made? Is this all the way up front where it's no, we're using the same platform. We're just going to refresh it. How did you guys approach the tech stack here?
Yeah. So that was a conversation up front, we laid all of our cards on the tables, took a look at the different platforms that were available to us. Or again, there was also the option of just truly building from scratch versus using, any kind of templates or anything like that. But ultimately, of course, as we were, taking it on ourselves and we were, a small, good mighty marketing team, but could use a little bit of help. So we ended up leveraging WordPress as our go-to platform to build on.
Alrighty. How long did it take? And give us an understanding of the outcome.
Yes. So soup to nuts, start to finish, it ended up taking us 8 months to rebuild, create all the content, get all the right designs in place, and then do some testing. This, thankfully, was an instance where we were able to share our sandbox with our customers. So we also got some insights from them that helped us tailor the site to, again, the needs of our visitors. And really the ultimate, outcome from it was that we saw over 500,000 visits to our website each month. And we also saw a very low bounce rate, and they would visit multiple pages every time we came. So typically new users, we'd see them hit 3, sometimes 4 pages before they would exit, which
Yep.
was huge for us.
Yeah, that's great. All right, cool. Thanks for sharing the case study. And let's go jump into Q&A. Tell us about your first gig in marketing.
Yes. So my first gig in marketing was as a kind of general marketing coordinator. Some people refer to me as an intern. Some as a thought I worked co-op. So it was really just there as, that we'll say the bottom of the ladder type role, getting my feet wet in marketing. And thankfully, my director at the time, he had slid an article across my desk written by Mr. Joe Lucy,
Oh,
aka
yeah, sure.
Butler Cotton Neptune. Yep. So he, and I'll note also that it was an article that he had printed out. So that
Oh, why
it's
not? Sure.
right, a little bit of sense of timing. So, not to date myself too much, but yeah, he slid that across the desk. Get content, get customers. Asked if I'd heard about this thing called content marketing. I definitely had not. So I just dove in, learned everything I could. One of my favorites to learn from was Marcus Sheridan, as he talked about pools and selling pools. Who would have thought that that would have been kind of a linchpin for content marketing and the field of it? And once I got a taste, I was hooked. That
Yeah.
was content marketing was for me. So from there, I was able to work with that same director to create their first content marketing and social media specialist role that I was able to move into. And that was my first official content marketing role. And part of that, I was able to launch their first blog, work hand in hand on campaigns, build out the social media strategy, and yeah, really just learn everything that I could while I was in that role. And it really just, propelled me forward and into the career I am living and breathing today.
Yeah. All right. I like that. I like the reference to Joe. I've seen Joe's work over the years. It's good stuff. What do you like most about it? Like the marketing, there's so many different aspects of why people enjoy it. What do you think is the one thing that you are like, this is why I just continue to do it?
Yeah, I love the balance of creativity and psychology and really digging into the different ways that you can persuade or engage with an audience and how the type of content, the way it's written, the way it's delivered, has an impact on the ultimate end result. And I just loved learning about that and essentially, doing that whole throw the spaghetti at the wall. Let's see what they like, and what our audience is gravitating towards. So just love that. Today, it really shows up in, any A/B testing. I'm the first one to join in on that meeting when we're like, what are we going to test this month? So it's continued, and that passion for learning about our audiences. Yeah, just continued to my career today.
All right, cool. I'm going to take the conversation negative now. I'm going to go to a dark place because, as all marketers know, there's so many things in marketing that make it really complex. And inevitably, it drives us crazy. Some parts of marketing drive us crazy. So, what are the things that you're just like, I love marketing, but this one thing, I can't do it anymore?
It's got to be the creating content for the sake of creating content. My biggest trigger in someone out of left field coming in and saying, let's do a blog series. I'm like, why? What are we trying to do? Let's back that up. Let's not start with the tactic. Let's figure out what you're trying to do first. And, there's this very outdated equation of more content means more results when that is truly not the case. And then we're in a bit of a scary time now with AI, and everyone's able to create content so quickly that you're seeing it almost circle back in terms of identifying the content has been written by a person, or spending a lot more time on building that quality content, repurposing what's working versus just
Yeah.
trying to spit out something new. So yeah, that's definitely, I would say, the dark area for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the general assumption by non-marketers is if we just ask the marketers to do more activities, that is a good thing. And I want a piece of paper created so I can show my boss or their boss. My former roles when I was leading digital and content for bigger companies, so much of my time was just spent meeting with people who were just like, I want all these things. And it actually led to the creation of my book called What's Your Problem, which was what I found myself asking everyone who just said, I need content. And the more I could say, well, tell me what business problem you're trying to solve, half of those requests just, they went away. And that's the biggest problem I think with content is it is such a shiny thing that everyone just points and goes, yep, it's not bad if I request that. So I share in your pain for the overdosing on content that isn't needed.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you need to pick up your book.
All right, I'm going to follow up on one thing. You just referenced kind of psychology and how that's a fun part of marketing. How do you get inside your customer's mind? Like what's a good way to like ask yourself questions for everyone who's listening to really kind of understand that this is ultimately it's we're helping people with content in this example, but like it's psychological warfare, right? Like we are trying to make our companies seem smarter, better, faster, whatever it is, right? Like how do you understand what's going on in your customer's mind?
So typically where I start is any sales call recording. So, a tool that I've often gone to is Gong. I know it's not the only one tool out there for recording, but one that I come across often, and leveraging their recordings and listening to the conversation. If there's video, even observing, their physical, attributes in terms of how they react to things that are brought up can give you a pretty good line of sight in terms of their behaviors. And then also just, again, spending time actually talking with some of the customers, any events, conferences, great opportunity to just walk the floor, just chit chat with some of the other attendees, kind of figure out where they're at. And then on the flip side, really getting to know the product and the solution that, your company is pitching, which I think is also a step that, some, overlook sometimes. They just want to, hit that ground running, create that content, get it out the door. But knowing your product really in depth and why there are certain elements that have been created can help you connect those dots. And again, helps you, walk 10 miles in your customer's
Yep.
shoes, really understand their role and what they're trying to achieve.
Yep. All right. I like that. One or two more questions for you. I think one question I always enjoy asking marketers is looking back when you started your career in marketing to where you are today, there are inevitably like one or two big things that stand out that say, I was totally off on that, or I should have done that differently. What are some things that looking back you would do differently?
Yeah, one definitely would be putting any actions you've identified into a queue or somewhere where it's visible, that people know that you're going to be working on it, so that a lot of the times, especially again early in my career, I would get requests, hey, create this solution sheet. And I'd say, yep, I'll get to it once I have a moment. Let me finish these other things. And then before I know it, as sales teams do, because they need the assets to go and have conversations, but they just go ahead and create something. And before you know it, everybody's got a copy.
Yeah.
It's out there. So, and it's a lot harder to claw back from that, we'll say. So, yes, making sure that not just saying, I've heard you, but also saying, yep, got it. I've got it on this queue. This is the next date. I'll give you an update. And this is when I'm expecting to have this asset delivered. If it needs to be, higher priority than having that conversation. But yeah, just really digging into the needs and communicating what you're working on. And second, I would say is a little bit less tangible, but to be more confident, to actually share, speak up, especially if someone comes through with something that you don't necessarily agree with, or that there's a better way to do it, based on your experience. Of course, as anyone is early in their careers, you're a little bit gun shy to,
Yep.
get out there, but just having that, I don't want to say blind confidence, but we'll say calculated confidence and when it shows up and when you bring it to meetings and how you can, connect with the executives to get them saying yes around the table and getting your job done.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Those are great lessons. I was only hoping for one, but my goodness, you've got like three in there that are really good. I can relate to those. All right. Well, I really enjoyed getting to know you more through the case studies and Q&A. So thank you for coming on the show. And thank you all to the listeners for joining us. And again, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can go to the 26 Characters website where we archive all of our content. So thank you to the listeners. And thank you once again, Vanessa, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Until next time, everyone, take care. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Interesting B2B Marketers podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss an episode. If you found value in today's episode, please help grow the podcast by sharing with others and leaving a review. We'll see you next time.